Hey, everybody, and welcome to Pete Carroll Was Right, the confusingly named Alabama football live show. As always, it's Carter, Ben, and Mitch here to talk all things Alabama football with you. Well, coming off another slightly slow start in the Iron Bowl, but they pretty well turned on the Jets after halftime and, put up 52 points on Auburn, which is always fun.
It was impressive. It was really impressive. A lot of hand wringing about the first half on social media, which I understand. We didn't really think it was going to be 17-14 at the half, and I get it. But they came out and they played really well, really well in the second half. We've talked, for a while now. Really, honestly, going back to like as early as like 2014 before Kenyon Drake got hurt about this idea of like really using like two backs like for like a lot of snaps as opposed to just like a play here and there, like to really use that as like a package that you go play after play with. And we've seen more of that this year probably than we had in any other year previously with sort of these three healthy backs that you want to get on the field at all times.
They had done it a little bit the last 2 years when Josh Jacobs was healthy, which was not a whole lot, but also not even when he was healthy, they didn't sort of have the same consistent commitment to that package that they do this, or they have later this year, it seems.
And that was the thing, sort of like I thought that while they have been using it more this year, they like really used it a lot in the second half. Like that seemed to be like the primary adjustment in order to help sort of free up the running game. And I mean, that might be something to watch for on Saturday, but it really worked well. And then, Tua was magnificent in the second half. That was one of his best halves, I think, of the season, because like, those throws were not easy. A lot of those throws were not like simple throws. Like he was making some great throws. So
but it was touchdown fun. Throws to Jerry Jeudy and Josh Jacobs were two of the finest balls you're going to see, I think.
And one adjustment by Jacobs too on that touchdown, right? What were you going to say, Mitch? I'm sorry.
Oh, just about the Jacobs thing. Yeah, it was incredible.
It's pretty great.
You guys find it interesting that Damian is never in the two back sets, that it's always Jacobs and Najee?
There wasn't any of Damian in the second half against Auburn. Maybe
it does seem like I don't know.
It's mostly Najee and Jacobs. I think that's true. Yeah.
I don't know if it's exclusive. I don't know that they haven't run any two-back Damian, but it definitely seems like it's always Josh, it seems. And usually the other guy is Najee.
Yeah. I mean, I guess Damian's going to get his snaps because he's the lead back.
Right.
And using Najee and Jacobs together is their way to sort of make sure that those guys get their snaps too. But now approaching the losable portion of the schedule. If you think that Damian and Jacobs are the two best backs, which, I do, maybe you want to give them some snaps together. I think that's probably something to look forward, something to sort of think about going forward when,
help, run some of those packages with Jalen in place of one of the backs.
That would
be get real fun.
That would be something. Yeah, we saw that a little bit against, we saw that against Missouri, and then it was like, we didn't see it against Tennessee, and then he got hurt against Tennessee, and so I don't really know like what the whole deal was with that, but that was like fun for like those two plays that they ran against Missouri. Was there anything else we want to? I know most of it, Auburn's kind of old news at this point. Is there anything else that we should talk about Auburn? I think everybody's kind of moved on, but
we probably just can't talk about in the preview for Georgia. In some way.
Yeah, that's true, right? We can sort of fold in, performance issues. I mean, look, I don't want to, just dismiss it. It's always nice to win, the Iron Bowl. And, that was, well, what about the defensive performance? Auburn certainly had a little bit of success running the ball.
Yeah, although like the final statistics they ran like 43 times for like 3 yards a pop. Like they really had one consistent drive where they did it well. And even that, like that was the same drive where the Mac Wilson had the bust on third down on the third and long. And, like that drive
Yeah.
was basically the one bit of consistent success they had. What the other 2 touchdowns were off. That double pass that everyone in the stadium except for Christian Miller saw coming.
No, yeah. And then the big play, the long touchdown pass.
Yeah, which was just like, okay, so I was on Twitter screaming because that really did look like OPI live.
Yeah.
And then you got the look and it's like, oh, no, Savion actually just kind of overran it. And then there was like maybe a light shove, but it really it would not have been a good OPI call.
Yeah, I don't think so.
But Stidham just threw up a duck.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you blame Savion for not tracking that one.
It's just hard, right? Like on these underthrown deep balls, like it's so hard to sort of come back and find the ball. Like, yeah, I mean, you kind of see that all the time, with really good corners where that's just like a very difficult play. So yeah, no, I don't hold that against them. Yeah, I thought overall the defense played, pretty well. It really just come and the second touchdown drive, the one on the trick play, that's like where they took over, right? Because
it was a short field, right?
Yeah, because that was the blocked punt. That was off the blocked punt.
Yeah, that's right.
So really, not much in the way of scoring drives. So yeah, and I think it was good. You don't want to see Isaiah Buggs get hurt, but assuming that's not serious, I think it was nice for LeBron Ray, to get a lot of quality snaps down there and kind of get him more involved.
Yeah, he played well too.
Yeah, I thought he played really well. I thought Sheem Carter played really well. I thought he had a really nice game. Yeah, just I mean, I'm not saying it was at the level of like the LSU performance or Mississippi State performance, but I don't think it was just a disaster by any means. Like I thought it was solid.
Yeah,
solid.
S&P Plus at 84% defense and another 100% post game win expectancy.
Yeah, and that's
amazing, right?
That's 84th percentile performance, and S&P can't see that it's a fluke touchdown and a trick play, right. And
not the type of stuff that is at all predictive for Georgia, who probably will not be.
And to just sort of like tie a bow on the regular season, beating every team by, let's see, the slimmest margin was 22 points. So I know that CBS popped the graphic up during the game, but to be the first team since 1988, Yale.
1888.
Sorry, that's what I meant. 1888. Yale. What's
1888?
1888.
That century is important.
That's a very big difference. Yeah, that's an important correction. I appreciate that. Right. First team since 1888 to win every game by 20 plus points. This is remarkable. I mean, it really is. I think that this season for the regular season, in a lot of ways, I think turned into everything that we kind of hoped it would be, right? Like everything that we anticipated that it might be and hoped that it would be. I think it really lived up to that. Some blips that involved injuries to the quarterback and kind of slowed them down a little bit, in the mid part of the schedule. But just overall, from a process-based standpoint, especially on offense, and from the play of the quarterback, and just from overall and looking just at overall outcomes. I mean, this was, and
there were some inconsistent performances on defense, but I would say that the defense as a whole is probably better than I thought it would be.
Yeah, I think so, and I think the defense improved. I think the inside linebackers really improved. I think even the outside linebackers improved. I think Christian Miller and Anthony Jennings both started to perform better as the year went on. The Trayvon Diggs injury really hurt, but they absorbed that well with Savion. Pat Surtain was a real pleasant surprise. I mean, I think going into the year, we kind of thought that he could be a player, but he has been excellent. I mean, really, really excellent. Yeah. And it's I don't know. It's great. I mean, I don't know what you guys would consider to be their best regular season under Nick Saban before this year. I mean, maybe probably 2016, I guess.
I would say 2016.
But this was better. I mean, this was this was better. Just no glitchy performances, right? And like, you know, the A&M game, right, that they won by 22, that was only by 22 because A&M scored late against Alabama's second team defense. The Mississippi State game at 24-0, Alabama came up a yard short of punching one in at the end to make it 31-0. At the LSU game, which they won 29-0, the adjusted scoring margin was 42, and like we know they played a lot better than 29-0. So like, you know, in a lot of ways, like they've even performed better maybe than some of like these outcomes indicate. Like they could have certainly won. They could have won every game by 30 points. Really. I mean, they really could have. Like, you know, the Missouri game.
Like if they even leave Tua in to the extent which Saban has left in first team quarterbacks in the past.
Right.
Like before he would not have been, like if he didn't have a Jalen on the roster, he would not have been so ready to go to the backup quarterback. And just think if they leave Tua in and run the offense, you know, through till the last drive, not even the whole game, but till like the last drive of every game, which is kind of when in the past when if the backup was going to come in, like that's when they would do it. I mean, just, you know, what would the margin be? What would the scoring look like? What would the yardage totals look like? It's insane.
Well, and against teams like LSU and Mississippi State, like Jalen being hurt even kind of impacts that because instead you have like Mac Jones coming in. I mean, you can see that has Jalen thrown a touchdown pass in like every game he's come in like relief.
It's got to be
big games
close. I mean, he ran one in again. I don't know if he threw one against Tennessee, but he ran one in against Tennessee.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I think, and I had sort of posted the final stats for Jalen. I mean,
I think his yards per attempt is higher than Tua's.
Yeah. So now, you know, this all comes with the disclaimer that we're not really, you know, comparing the two in terms of like, you know, but like, you know, we don't, especially given the way that discussion has gone in, you know, certain places. We don't want to sort of give off the wrong impression here, but, you know, Carter's point is good because Jalen's you know, stats are useful just to provide context. And, you know, and you're right, like Tua's yards per attempt is 11.2. Jalen's was 11.4. Jalen's completion percentage was 4% higher. His efficiency was higher. He was great. I mean, you know, very limited time, obviously, but you know, really, I think showed a lot of improvement. So, you know, that was a cool thing about this season. I don't know, like it was just a great season, and I know that, you know, a great season will turn into a colossal disappointment if they don't go 15-0 and win a national championship. And that's, you know, that's reasonable. You know, those expectations are not unfounded. This team should go 15-0. You know, they should be an undefeated national champion. They are that good. And to fall short of that would be a disappointment. And I'm sure it would be, you know, I think everybody would probably agree with that. But it is worth taking a step back and just kind of just reflecting on the regular season and saying that, you know, no matter what happens from here on out, they were unbelievable for these last 13 weeks. Unbelievable. So it was fun to watch. It really was.
So Georgia. They're good. They're a very similar team, especially on offense to what they were last year. Like they lost Chubb and Michelle, and that's about it. And then they replaced those two with guys that are basically exactly like them. Like DeAndre Swift is kind of very similar to Sony Michel, and Elijah Holyfield is a little more similar to Chubb, I would say. It's funny how they replaced him with two almost, you know, kind of identical skill set type guys.
Swift is great. He's really good back.
Yeah.
He is really good. I think Fromm's improved this year. I don't know exactly what the statistics say, but it looks like he's improved. I know the LSU game is bad. He looked bad against LSU. I think a lot of that had to do with the LSU defense playing really well, but you know, I think right. So like schematically, it's similar, right? But I think they're sort of better. They're sort of like better in every area. right? I mean, maybe the backs are kind of similar, but I think the passing game is more developed now than it was last year. Just not that the schematics are super different, but just that the players are just kind of better and the quarterback's better.
Ridley's a better player than he was last year.
Yeah, Ridley. I think Ridley and Fromm, like that's really kind of like the big difference this year in terms of allowing them to be more successful in the passing game. And they're passing. I mean, their offense. I think they're like third in offensive S&P plus or something like that. Which is obviously
they are like in. Bill's now big on the Bill Walsh stats this year, and so in like open play,
they're phenomenal.
Which like year 10 to the opponent's 30, they're incredible. They're as good as anybody in the country. And then inside the 5, they turn into Rutgers.
Yeah.
And it's baffling. That's
interesting. So why? Right. So what's the explanation for that?
Honestly, I think it's that the offensive line is like kind of meh. Like they're the few stats you can see on their offensive line, like the Football Outsiders type stats, suggest that they're pretty good at run blocking and mediocre at pass blocking. But I think part of it is that I think the backs are so good that they make the line look a little better. Like I didn't get to watch as much of them as I would have liked, but I thought there were a lot of plays where the two of them kind of having as good a vision and lateral quickness and the ability to just sort of find the hole that both of them have kind of made the line look better than it was. And so I think it's a combination of that. So, when you can't get push from your offensive line in the red zone, makes it harder to run. And then it's always hard to pass in the red zone just because the space is so compressed. And Fromm is good, and he's gotten better, but I also don't think he's I don't think he's great at fitting the ball into tight spaces. Like, if Tua can hit the keyhole, Fromm can hit like the middle area of the door.
Yeah.
And the other thing I would say is I don't think Jim Chaney has done a very good job of. So like the big example of this is in Bill's post earlier in the week about the game. There's this like 6-play sequence when they were inside the 5 against Florida, and there was a penalty, so they got like another series of downs. They line up in almost the same formation on 6 straight plays and could not punch it in. And then from what I watched, it seemed like when they tried to pass in the red zone, they didn't do a really good job of like scheming to create windows. Like it seemed like every pass I watched Fromm throw in the red zone was just kind of like, let's get a one-on-one matchup and hope our guy try to make a good throw and hope our guy makes a play. Like there wasn't a lot of like, running rub routes and shifting guys around and doing anything. Like you got to get creative to make a window in the red zone. And it just didn't seem like they were doing that.
Yeah. Mitch, do you have any sort of general impressions about the Georgia offense?
Yeah, I mean, in regards to like the open play versus the red zone, I think it could also be an issue of sample size a little bit too. Like they are a fairly explosive team as well. So if they're, scoring from further out, they just don't have
as many opportunities. Yeah.
But clearly when they have been inside the red zone, it's been an issue.
Yeah. And it's been across multiple games too. Like this is not like sort of a one-off, like it's really persisted, especially over the second half of the season. Like there was that sequence against Florida. They had 2 sequences in the first quarter against Auburn where they got inside the 5 and couldn't punch it in. And I didn't watch the UMass game, but apparently they had some struggles on the red zone against them as well. So it's consistent, and it's in some ways not been entirely opponent related. It's not like they, looked great in the red zone against bad teams and struggled against good defenses. It's almost like it's something inherent to what they do.
It seems like a lot of their success in the passing games comes from like either busts or like plays against like zone, which I think both as you shrink the field becomes less likely. But
so do we think that is Alabama going to come in and play a lot of man? Do we think in this game then?
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. Yeah. Because I don't think, I don't know, and there's not like a receiver that really scares you, I think.
Right.
Godwin and Hardman are both shifty, real fast guys. And Ridley is he's kind of a bigger guy. He's like 6'2", 200. He's bigger than Calvin was. Not as good in any other area as Calvin was. So he's a bit more of a kind of a, guy that can go up and get it at the point of the catch. But I don't know that he's like, he's not a guy you look at and you're like, crap, I'm really worried about that guy, from an Alabama perspective. So you feel good, I think, about Alabama's ability to match up with these guys in terms of their corners on the outside.
Yeah. Now, Georgia, so to sort of, stay along that theme about how Alabama lines up. Georgia is, still like last year, has a very run-centric offense. Mm-hmm. Their standard down run rate is 30th in the country. Their passing down run rate is 21st in the country. We know last year during the national championship game, they hit Alabama for a number of crucial plays, crucial run plays on passing downs, that help set up points on multiple drives. So, that is going to be sort of very important, I think. Now, last year, they came out on standard downs against Alabama and they threw the ball. At least early.
Yeah.
Do we expect a similar approach on Saturday? I think there's some competing interests here. I think that they might feel that they have a little bit of a better chance to run the ball this year than last year. Their running game, their running game is just so, it's so explosive and it's so efficient. Yeah. And I think Alabama not having Rashaan Evans in the middle is probably significant in terms of whether or not Georgia would think that it has a chance to sort of just use more of its conventional run strategies and have some success that way. And also, I think that their strategy is going to be one in which they want to limit the possessions in the game. We'll talk about that more when we get to the other side of the ball too. But I think it's going to be very important for them to limit the possessions. And that's not to say that they would turn down scoring the ball quickly or turn down any explosive plays. But I think that a strategy in which they're successful running the ball really does give them their best chance to win. So, my gut says that they're not going to just come out and just run every play, but I think that it's going to be more of a run-based approach early in the game, at least relative to what it was last year.
Yeah, I would agree.
So the question, I guess, the big question is, can they be successful running the ball against Alabama? Jim Chaney, one thing that Jim Chaney is really, really good at is using, various formations and motions and, creating different leverage opportunities in different parts of the field. Like he is really quite good at that. And I do think that while Alabama's inside linebackers have improved, there is concern here, right? About
you can definitely catch those guys out of position if you're doing things a lot. And Georgia doesn't vary the personnel a ton. Like they're in 11 a lot. Yeah. They'll when Fields is in there, they'll either line up in 12 or they'll go like empty with 2 tight ends sometimes. But when Fromm is in there, they're pretty much in 11 all the time. But like you said, they don't. They line up all over the place. They do a lot of. I noticed them do. They do a lot of like Ram style bunch formations.
Yep.
And they'll do those both out of the gun and under center. But yeah, they move the pieces around to create different leverages a lot.
And even in that LSU game where they really struggled. Offensively, they still ran the ball, especially in the first half, really well.
Yeah.
So I have, that's probably my biggest area of concern in this game. I think I have 2 areas of concern. My first area of concern is Georgia having success running the ball efficiently. and staying ahead of the chains. My second area of concern is them hitting some big plays in the passing game. I think they're going to get Alabama in a lot of single high looks, and I'm worried especially about those chop routes, throwing deep balls to the slot receiver. I think that there's some potential for them to create some big plays here against Alabama and to really move the ball. I don't know, like how you guys feel about that. If that's like what your level of concern is, in terms of what Georgia can do offensively.
Georgia's not like the type of running style of offense that I worry too much about, like efficiently, just against Alabama in the Saban era. I do think they could use Fields effectively, and I think how much they prepare to use him, like if it, it seems like most games it's just been like a package or two,
right?
But if it's a lot more than that, yeah, I would. That could really stress the defense, but it's like, I don't know. Even as good as they are, like this is just not the type of team that runs well on Alabama.
Right. Yeah. Certainly, at the end of the day, they are more of a pro style team. What do you, Carter? You were when you were texting us earlier in the week, you were sharing some thoughts on their offensive line. It's probably so. What have you thought about them so far?
Yeah, I mean, it just doesn't. Like, it seemed like a lot of their successful running plays, they were using formations and running a lot of like stretch plays and basically getting leverage on the outside rather than just getting put. First of all, it didn't seem like they ran a lot of gap plays at all. It seems like they're mostly a zone team.
Yeah.
And it seemed like they run a lot of stretch plays, a lot of outside zone. Getting tight ends on the edge and stuff like that, just getting the backs into space and letting them create that way. And that might also be part of the reason that they're so good in the open field and then have troubles in the red zone. It just didn't seem like, when they were running inside zone and stuff, it just didn't seem like they were really moving guys off the ball. It seemed like they, had trouble. They were consistently kind of just at best stalemating up front. So I think there is some possibility for Alabama to cause real problems for Georgia just because they're not going to even let the backs get off the ground. They're just going to be guys in the backfield enough that it's really going to hurt them. And you have some discrepancy between, how guys are at run blocking and pass blocking, but to me, the sack rate suggests to me that they will struggle with a front as athletic as Alabama's, even in the run game.
If Alabama's defensive line plays really well against the run, and if the linebackers play well on top of that, Georgia has no chance to win this game. The game's over. If Alabama wins that matchup even somewhat decisively, it's really, really hard to see sort of a realistic path to victory for Georgia. So I think that's like one of the really big things that I'm going to be watching as far as like what's an early indication of how this game is going to go. And I think, to see how that matchup plays out between their offensive line and Alabama's defensive front is going to be pretty important. What about
that to me more than anything? I think I don't know. You identified it as sort of a worry, like as far as like can Georgia run the ball efficiently?
Right.
So I don't know. I expect Alabama to win that matchup, but I think you're right on about that's the thing to watch to see whether or not this game is going to be close. Because if they can't do it, then that's their path to staying in this game. If they can't do it, it's not going to go well.
And if they can't do it with Fromm, I wouldn't be surprised if they pull a 2017 Alabama and put Fields in there for a large portion of the game.
I think so.
Yeah.
That's Fromm has been good though, right? He has played pretty well recently, I think.
No, he's been very good.
But what does Fields give them though that Fromm doesn't? Certainly he's much faster. I understand that he's a much greater threat with his legs. But is that Like
is he how advanced of a passer? Because like the games that have been, that when they've been against good teams and stuff, he really hasn't. I mean, he really hasn't thrown the ball. He's like basically been a Tebow, and so the only passing action he's got is in as a backup. And so I don't know, like, do they trust him to come in and run the whole offense? Like, this doesn't seem to be like a Tua situation where, like, everyone talks about how talented this guy is, but no, like, there don't seem to be these reports filtering out. It's like, Justin Fields is slinging it around in practice and blowing everyone away the way even like, Trevor Lawrence was at Clemson, for instance.
I don't know if I agree that like, I'm not sure I agree with Mitch in that. I don't necessarily think that like Fields coming in and playing every down is a significant possibility, but I do agree with the general point that I think Fields could be used more this game than he has been used in any of their other games. Like I would have some packages for him to come in and I would let him throw the ball. Now it's all about picking your spots, right? And I'm not trying to let him throw the ball in sort of like, just normal, regular old dropbacks, full field reads, all of that stuff. But like, if I was Georgia, I would be trying to create these packages where it seems like Fields is being brought in to run, and then you have some pass plays kind of built in off of that. And like, I would be pretty wary of that if I was Alabama, because I think that they're going to look, they're going to go into this game knowing that they're going to need to score a lot of points to win. Like they're not going to win this game, 24-17 or something. Like they know that they're not even going to win the game like 30-27. They are going to have to score at least in the mid to high 30s to win this game, even if their defense plays reasonably well. So like, I think, they're going to go in with the mindset that like, last year, if they came up empty on a possession or two, no big deal. This year, you start coming up empty on 1 possession, 2 possession, 3 possession. Well, now, you're starting to run out of possessions because you need a lot of points to win this game. So I think there's going to be a huge emphasis on taking some chances. I do think that they're going to take some chances. So where generally I think the approach might be sort of more ball control, they're going to do everything they can to maximize their chances of scoring on each possession, even if that means incurring some risk.
Yeah, and I have a very strong feeling that given how run heavy they've been with Fields this year, that like, because it seems like every time he comes in, it's zone read, it's right. A QB draw, it's a QB sweep. Like they've been like to the point that this has like become a thing that he's like not really throwing when he's in the sub packages. Now seems like the time where like you've been setting up this tendency all year, and now's the time when you drop the other shoe, as it is. I may have mangled that expression. I don't know what I was what idiom I was going for there, but I
agree. I think this game is set up well for that. How do we feel about the state of the Alabama defense coming into this game?
Like in terms of how they're playing?
Yeah. Mostly happy, right? I mean, mostly mostly feeling good. There's a couple interesting points. The first point is obviously the Terrell Lewis situation. It now sounds like he's definitely not going to play. It's sort of a weird thing, right? Because I think that he genuinely believed that he might play in this game.
It sure made it seem like it, like picking up where you left off, like that,
And I don't think he would have. I just don't get the feeling that he would have done that just to like mess around.
Yeah.
And maybe there was some miscommunication here. Like maybe he took this idea that, oh, well, I'm cleared for drills as I'm cleared to maybe actually possibly play in the game, whereas it really wasn't actually communicated to him like his actual chances of playing in the game. But like, I don't know. I mean, it's all a moot point now, of course, because if you trust Saban on this, and I think I do, right? Do you when Saban you find that like reliable and reliable indicator of his chances of playing in this game? Basically, Saban saying like, I mean, Saban Saban didn't actually say literally like Terrell Lewis won't play Saturday.
Yeah. There's a part of me that's sort of hoping he was being real squirrely about it by like he's not playing anytime soon. And by anytime soon, I meant within the next 2 days because we play on Saturday. And then it's like he was like, oh, just because he's out there doesn't mean he's medically cleared.
Right.
But he's cleared.
but he did say something about like in terms of this game. Like I was sort of thinking that, and then at the very end he sort of slipped in something like a specific reference to this this game this week, which kind of seemed to me to indicate that he was saying that Terrell would not be out there. But like, it was just a weird, like he kind of, I mean, and Saban does this and coaches do this generally, but like he did kind of like talk around the issue rather than like.
The thing that makes me wonder about it is if he was just cleared to start drills, but he's not gonna play, why have him out there during the media viewing period?
Yeah.
Like the only reason I can think that is you could be like, so you can kind of put it in George's heads that he might play.
Right.
So if you're going to do that, then why come out there and be like, no, he's not going to play?
And Saban also said he's not participating in contact drills, but then why is he wearing a red jersey then? I mean, why isn't he wearing a black?
Sometimes they have them. Sometimes they have them change after the media viewing period, but I just don't. It seems odd to me that if it was always certain that he wasn't going to play this week, then why have him out there during the media periods? Why not kind of keep this under wraps until it's like a real thing,
Yeah, Mitch, what do you make of the whole Terrell Lewis thing and Saban's comments and everything?
I mean, I thought he kind of made the comment about for this game specifically to kind of open the door for him playing in the bowl games, at least. Like
that, I definitely.
Yeah.
So that's a separate thing. In a month, I definitely think that Terrell Lewis is going to be. There's a good chance that he's going to be a player for Alabama.
I don't know. So what's the thinking behind keeping him out for the viewing period? Like just to not have people talking about it, or what's the strategy behind doing that?
About why you wouldn't?
Yeah.
It just seems like, I don't know. Like he had to have known the buzz that this was going to create, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that. Does he care? Like.
Yeah, maybe he doesn't care. I mean, he didn't even wait. I don't even think he waited for a question to be asked about it, right? He just sort of headed it off at the pass even before anybody had even asked about it, which is kind of an interesting tactic.
It all seems very normal to me, except the original comment he made about picking up where he left off, which seemed to imply about this game specifically. But other than that, it all seems very normal for his rehab. Other than it seems a little quick that he's back doing it this soon, but maybe not.
And also, like Mac Wilson tweeted about it, and some of the players were asked about it.
Oh yeah, because there was that like surprise or something that Mac.
Yeah.
It may have been the sort of thing where they got him out, like they told him coming into this week, like, all right, you're cleared to start drills. Like maybe there's a chance you'll play, and then they got him out there in practice. That's
always a possibility.
And then they were like, okay, you're still progressing, but you're not going to play this week. So it may have been that there just wasn't a decision on this at the time. Like certainly at the time he tweeted, and then like maybe still lingering on past the first practice or so.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess we'll say but ultimately, like we kind of expect no
at this point. Yeah, I'm not. I would say it's a very small chance.
Yeah. So probably not. I think for time constraints, we won't address like how he would be used any further because he's probably not going to be used. What about the safety situation in dime?
Like I don't think it's going to be a huge issue because Georgia doesn't run a lot of 4 wide, so they're not going to be in dime all that much.
Right.
Jared Maiden was never that impactful of a player when he was on the field.
Yeah. But Keaton, I'm not, I'm not going to prejudge.
Keaton played fine when he was in there.
Yeah. It's just Alabama, so Yeah.
I don't know. Like that doesn't. If it were any other DB that they had lost, it would really be worrying me.
Sure.
Now it's just like, I kind of hope he does okay and holds out.
Like, yeah, the review on the Shaheem Carter targeting scared the shit out of me. Like, that would have been a totally different story. Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, so you're right. Georgia's not going to really go with much 4 wide receivers. Alabama does like to play dime though, right? Like even against 11 on passing downs, like on 3rd downs, like they want to get that out there. So I think maybe it's pretty locked in that Keaton will be the 6th defensive back, but maybe the question is like, well, do you favor maybe just staying in nickel in those situations?
Right. Yeah,
and just keeping the 2 linebackers on the field. So that's I think
it does help that that role that he's replacing is the dime safety. It's hard to sort of go at the dime safety,
right?
Less so than it would be if it's the guy who's playing if he's the guy who's playing star or playing money. Like where they're more likely to
or you can isolate him in coverage. Yeah.
So
no, I don't think it's a super. I mean, I wish it wasn't a thing. You know what I mean? I wish obviously that was a very well deserved targeting call. So like obviously like that officials made a good call there, but like he it's just unfortunate. I agree though that ultimately like it's not going to be super impactful. Other than that, like I think I'm pretty pleased with where the defense is at coming into this game. So they're, I don't know, like do you think the Fields thing, just to touch on that really quick, that could be an option in the red zone right now? I know they've used him in the red zone this year and it has not been very effective. So like, I without knowing that, if I had not known that, I would think that could be sort of an option. I think that the play calling will be better. I would trust that, like, if the play calling has been an issue, I would trust that Georgia's play calling in the red zone would probably be better in this game, just because like it has to be, because like the whole season's on the line. But we'll see. Is there anything else that you guys wanted to say about the Georgia offense versus Alabama defense, or should we kind of turn it around?
Let's go for the other side.
Turn it around. Okay. That matchup, I think I feel good about. I don't know how you guys feel, but I feel like Alabama's going to carve them up.
Okay. Like all you have to say about this, if you needed to distill this into a 10-second segment, is inefficient run defense and no pass rush. Like, okay, they play. We'll get all this in more detail. They play a lot of 2 deep. They show a lot of 2 deep. So even when they bring a safety in the box, he's sort of flying in from 15 yards out, and it's has a hard time affecting the play. And the DBs are good. I don't think they're quite as good as their like number 1 pass defense per S&P Plus ranking suggests.
Yeah.
Or is it number 3? It's number 3. Number 1 on passing downs, number 3 against passing. They kind of keep everything in front of them. But they can't rush the passer. And if you leave to a time, I don't care how, what your DBs are doing, like he's going to find somebody, he's going to carve you up.
Yeah. That doesn't, it certainly doesn't seem like the sort of defense that would give Alabama trouble. I mean, they replaced a lot of players, particularly in that front 7. I think Ledbetter's the only guy that they've even brought back from last year's team. So, I mean, talking about a whole bunch of new players and just not quite the talent level.
And like DeAndre Walker is really the only impact guy they have on that whole front 7. Like they have a lot of depth. They rotate a ton of guys.
Yeah.
But it's just I think they're kind of in an awkward position talent wise. Like, I think for Kirby, it was kind of a situation where, like, the best of the recruited players were all kind of either, draft eligible juniors who went or were seniors last year. And so those guys were really experienced and had a really great team last year. And now they're kind of in an in-between period where, like, the best Kirby recruits are still kind of on the come up. and so they're left with a lot of guys. Like, I was reading the RBR piece where they were previewing the defense just to get a look at some of the names and stuff. Like, a lot of the guys they're starting are former 3-stars.
Yeah. Yeah. There's just no talent on this. Like, this is an amazingly untalented defense. Like, they had, like, DeAndre Baker is he a senior this year?
Yes.
Yeah. And then Ledbetter is also, and I think those are like they're two players that are like on any draft, like anything. Just in general, this defense seems like it sets up like the LSU defense minus the elite secondary.
So if they, so I mean, where they've really made hay, this defense is like Carter said, like they've been very good against the pass. Now, I think from watching them, I think that they're very good in a predictive way at not giving up big plays. They play very conservative coverages. They show a lot of split safety looks. They play lots of off coverage, so like they're very, very good at preventing big plays, in part because of the strategy and also because the guys are just well coached. They know the scheme, they play the scheme well, like they execute well, they stay on top of routes. Like, it's hard to take the top off this defense. I think the interesting question, though, is how predictive, especially going against a team like Alabama, how predictive their ability to have success efficiency-wise with their pass defense. Because in addition to not giving up big plays, they have not given up a lot of plays anywhere on the field, right? I mean, they are third, they're third in marginal. They are passing. They are, third. So they're third in passing marginal efficiency. So like really, really good at not giving up plays anywhere. So is that like a function of just not facing good quarterbacks? I mean, they haven't, I guess, faced a lot of like.
Honestly, I think that's a big part of it because, like, okay, yeah, S&P is opponent adjusted. In some ways, I think a lot of times it doesn't go far enough in that regard. But they just like they played Mizzou, right. Drew Lock really didn't turn it on until late in the year. Like, Mizzou was not passing well early in the year.
And Mizzou also ran the ball all over Georgia.
Ran all over them and could have won, like, for one, okay, post-game win expectancy on that game was only like 60% for Georgia.
Yeah. Well, Georgia had like that defensive score right away, which hurt them, and Georgia had some other breaks in that game.
Yeah.
That was a very winnable. It was 68% post-game win expectancy. That was a very, very winnable game for Missouri.
It was a 14-point margin, adjusted scoring margin 4.5. Like, Georgia got a lot of breaks early in that game, and they were bad against the run.
Yeah. So I think. I think that a lot of this game will come down to, for Alabama, will come down to just how patient they can be. They want to hit big plays. Like, the whole offense is designed around hitting explosive plays. Like, that's all they want to do. Tua wants to hit, he wants to like throw it.
I think that'll be a big part of the game plan this week for the coaches, for Saban and Locks and Enos, all of them trying to drill into Tua this week, like, take what's there, what's there, because it'll be there.
It'll be there every time.
There will be chunks to be picked up. Like, it's not going to be the 50, 60, 70-yard plays, at least not right away, but there will be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, like 5 to 15-yard gains. Those are going to be there.
And I think the explosive plays could come maybe not on deep balls, but on some of these receivers just making plays after the catch.
Yeah, right? like
Jalen Waddle or Jerry Jeudy just like catching the ball and making a play like they've done so many times this year. Like, the big plays can come even if the ball doesn't travel in the air super far.
Right. If they're going to play soft cover 2, there are spots there.
Right.
Like, find those spots and let Jerry Jeudy juke guys out of their shoes, because he'll do that. Like, that's. Yeah. I think this is a game for yards after the catch.
Yeah, I agree. I think they should have they'll have a lot of success, using their RPOs to put the linebackers in some conflicts. I think that'll be a big problem. I think that, like, there are really two types of teams, right, that have any chance for success against Alabama. There's the team with a bunch of great DBs who can stack the box and just play man on the outsides and hopefully lock you up. That in theory that exists. I don't know if there's any team that can actually do that, but in theory that exists. And then on the flip side, there's the team with the great defensive line who can kind of sit back, play soft covered, but trust their defensive line to dominate and change the game. Sort of like, a Mississippi State did when they had success against Alabama. I don't think that Georgia is either one of those teams. Schematically, they want to be like the latter. They want to play soft coverage and they want to just trust their defensive front.
But they don't have the front for it.
But they don't have the front to do it. And if they switched up strategy and went to and played more aggressive, I think that would leave them vulnerable in ways that they haven't been this year. Because, the secondary to me is a situation where I think that the sum of the parts is greater than the individual parts.
Yeah.
But when you put them in a situation where you load the box and force them to play a lot of man coverage and you isolate and you sort of voluntarily isolate matchups, I think that's kind of the situation where some of these other parts could get exposed. I know they've cycled through a lot of corners opposite DeAndre Baker. I think they're now on Tyson Campbell, maybe. Like, he's not, he's struggled. I don't think the safeties haven't been great in pass defense when they've been challenged. So, I just don't. It doesn't seem to me like a defense that has a chance to stop Alabama, at least in open play.
Yeah. And so on that note, talking about the safeties, if you go and look at their tackles or the like who on their defense has the most tackles, and I think this probably speaks to the inefficient to the kind of poor run defense more than anything, but 3 of their top 5 tacklers in positions 1, 3, and 4 are DBs, and I think 2 of them are safeties.
And that's also how they can be 50th in overall rushing S&P plus. They can be 71st in rushing marginal efficiency. They can be 110th in opportunity rate, whatever opportunity rate means. It sounds significant. And 91st in stuff rate. So basically, like, not good against the run, but 8th in marginal explosiveness.
Yeah.
So they're limiting the big
You're going to get past the linebackers when you're running the ball against them, but the DBs are actually going to wrap up and tackle you. It's going to be a 10-yard gain instead of a 30-yard gain.
And I think if they started to stack the box, in addition to putting extra stress on the defensive backs, I think that suddenly you could be more, there would be a greater possibility to hit some big plays against them in the rushing game as well. So it's hard to see. Mitch, I'm curious about your thoughts as well, but for me, it's hard to see a way in which Georgia stops them in open play.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like their best chance of stopping Alabama is to almost just kind of let them take the small chunks, get into the red zone, and then hope that Alabama, for whatever reason, struggles there. Like looking at their havoc rates, they must just not use like any of their secondary to go after the quarterback. Like, do they just only use the linebackers to like bring extra pressure?
Yeah. Well,
DB havoc rate 94th. Yeah, wow. And DL havoc rate 150. So basically, the only times they're getting havoc plays are when they're blitzing the linebackers.
Right.
So they run blitz a lot.
Yeah, so that they can just like kind of let Alabama get into the red zone, bring some extra pressure with the linebackers, and hope that Alabama. I don't know. How
I think you stay with what's worked for you all year, which is playing these soft shells and keeping everything in front of you, and you either hope you do your best you can to coach up your guys and see if they can play out of their minds. But you force Alabama to work for every yard, basically. Don't like make them take longer drives and hope they drop the ball. Tua throws an interception. You can hold them to field goals in the red zone. Like, you're going to have to play a very bend, don't break, look for turnovers, play for field goals, like that type of thing. Like, you can't hope to just, get pressure, shut them down. Like, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
Something that like they can do to increase the potential for big plays that Ben mentioned on Twitter and I've been talking about since at least the LSU game is to start playing with tempo more.
Yeah.
I think that opens up the possibility for, well, because Alabama's been like not explosive at all in the running game this season.
Oh yeah.
Whatever reason, I don't know.
Before that 73-yard run by Damian against the Citadel, I think Tua's 44-yard touchdown against LSU was their longest running play of the year. Like they just haven't been breaking away.
Yeah.
But like if they start playing with tempo, I think there's potential to start breaking plays there, either like just because the defense gets tired or the communication.
Right, they don't get lined up completely. Yeah. I think that's true. I do. And I also think an added benefit of, sort of playing with tempo is I think Alabama's goal should be to sort of maximize the possessions in this game. You know, I think for Alabama, like the more possessions, the better. So, playing with tempo, like
if they're going to force you to get it 10 yards at a time instead of 50 yards at a time, then get those 10 yards at a time as quickly as you can.
Yep.
Right. I think they're going to turn too loose in this game on the ground too. We saw at least a play against Auburn in the red zone that went for a touchdown. I think we're going to see more of that. Like last year in the national championship, Tua's legs were a huge part of their second half game plan. Like so much was obviously made of what he did in the air. But like,
please, God, give us back the Tua option game.
Yeah, like the Tua option game, the Tua straight run game, like that would just. Georgia's already in a tough enough spot defensively in this game. I think that would make it even more difficult. Now the red zone, I think that's sort of the last thing we want to mention. Georgia's numbers in the red zone defensively, also not great.
Yeah, I've been so focused on their being so bad offense.
So they're
good in the sort of the like shallow area.
Right.
Once they get,
and then they get really bad.
Like they generated some turnovers inside the 10,
right?
But 103rd in success rate between the 11 and the 20. Inside the 10, 88. First and goal, 127. I mean, that makes sense, right? Like if you can't stop, like if you're giving up 5-yard gains every time in open play, like you're probably not going to be able to stop people from getting 1-yard gains.
Right. Right. Because at that point, right, the one thing you do really well is you prevent explosive plays. Well, the offense doesn't need explosive plays once they get inside the 10-yard line. So they just need a few yards. So I mean, it's and goal line success rate is even worse. It's 128. So
100%.
Yeah. So I guess every single time that a team has had a goal line opportunity, they've punched it in. So, their best chance to keep Alabama to 30 points is for Alabama to have a glitchy day in the red zone. Have Alabama be 3 for 6 in the red zone or something, because it's really hard to imagine Alabama not in the red zone a lot. So, if Alabama has a glitchy day and goes 3 for 6 in the red zone, that's probably Georgia's best chance to stay in the game.
Yeah.
Right. Then maybe and then Georgia has a big day offensively and they win 35-31 or something like that. That's, that's plausible. Did you guys have any other thoughts on the game? I think we want to do a little playoff talk, right? Get into a little playoff talk. Should we do score predictions now and then head into playoff talk?
Yeah, let's go ahead and do it now.
Okay. You go first?
Let's say 42-27. Maybe 24. 24.
I'm gonna go with what I've gone with almost all year in the 50-13 range.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I almost hit it last week if it wasn't for that block punt.
Yeah.
Joe's Bullock is actually hitting a field goal.
Yeah.
I'm bullish on the offense. So I'll go sort of 45 for Alabama. I'm not quite as bullish on the other matchups. I'm gonna go 45-27. So very close to Carter's.
Yeah.
The last thing I'll say about this game, is sort of an interesting note. The spread opened, I think, at 10.5. It quickly jumped up to like 13.5, which I think is maybe where it settled in.
I think it's held steady. Yeah.
So 10.5. A lot of bettors think Alabama's going to buy 2 touchdowns, so they pound that. They lay the points and they take that. So, on the other hand, S&P Plus has a projected scoring margin of 3. So sees it very differently. The S&P Plus gives Georgia a 43% win probability to win this game. I think that's what most of these predict, like FPI and stuff. I think FPI comes in pretty similar.
Yeah.
But obviously, that gives them like a 20% chance. The Vegas line suggests like a 20% chance or so to win. Which one do we think it's closer to?
Well, considering that Alabama has overperformed S&P Plus, like almost literally, like they're the most overperforming team in S&P Plus, I'm gonna lean towards Vegas.
Yeah.
Okay. And Bill even admitted that, right? I think somebody asked him about this, and he said that he thinks that S&P Plus is somehow underrating Alabama. But we would agree that this is easily the most losable game that Alabama's played this year, right?
Yeah,
I mean, I think Georgia is the 3rd best team, right? I think they are the 3rd, pretty firmly entrenched as the number 3 team in the country. It's probably a good segue into the playoff where the top 4 teams make it. So if it's chalk, if everybody wins, and Oklahoma and Ohio State both look as expected, Oklahoma in, Ohio State out,
I think it would be really weird for the committee unless it's like Oklahoma's win is super fluky and Ohio State just, they throw up like 70 on Northwestern or something like that.
Yeah.
Because like Oklahoma is already ahead of Ohio State and they play a much better team than Ohio State does this weekend.
Right.
So like if both win, even if Ohio State beats the crap out of Northwestern, if I'm in that room, I have a hard time saying, this is what has lifted Ohio State over them for me. So I say it's almost certainly Oklahoma.
Mitch, do you come down in the same direction?
Yeah, it's so like, you said like chalk and expectation. It's like, I don't even really know if I have an expectation for Ohio State. Like,
right.
They could easily turn back into the same team that got blown out by Purdue and
play a close game against Northwestern. Yeah,
I think there's a small chance that if Ohio State just destroys Northwestern and Oklahoma plays a close shootout with Texas, I think there's a small chance that Ohio State sneaks in, but it's pretty small.
Okay. Let's say that all that happens and Georgia narrowly loses to Alabama. Is there any chance that Georgia makes it?
I think it will be discussed. Ultimately,
Georgia is better than those teams.
Correct.
Yeah,
they are. Like they definitely
are. Think that it's almost because Georgia's almost certainly the 4th seed in that. Right.
It would set up a rematch. Yeah.
Like an immediate rematch.
Yeah.
I mean, you would be perfectly justified in saying, well, we thought Alabama was clearly the number 1 team in the country, and Georgia hung right with them. We're putting them up over Notre Dame. Like that would be bold. That would be bold, but it would be perfectly justified.
It would be justified in the eyes of objective
people. I'd love that because I'd rather play Notre Dame than play Georgia again, even though I think they're decisively better than Georgia.
Yeah. Mitch, what do you think? Does Georgia have a chance?
I mean, if they beat Tua-led Alabama, or if they keep it close against Tua-led Alabama, yes. But if something happens to Tua and
it's like,
by keeping it close,
I don't want to entertain that possibility.
Yeah. What are the chances? So assuming that doesn't happen, and let's assume that Oklahoma looks really good against Texas and they make it, what are the chances that Oklahoma jumps Notre Dame?
Ooh, that would be great.
I mean,
am I hoping for that now? I think I am. Because Notre Dame's schedule was not great. Yeah. I've come around a bit on Oak. Like, I've decided I would rather play Oklahoma than Ohio State. And the reason for that is like Ohio State has played bad on defense all year.
You think it can be good?
Yeah, just because like I don't know, it's kind of the thing we always talk about on this show. Like I am scared of talent more than anything.
Right. But doesn't the Oklahoma offense scare you more than the Ohio State offense?
It does, but the Ohio State offense is also really good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like either way, when you play those teams, you're going to be matching Alabama's defense against a really great offense, and you're going to be matching Alabama's offense against a bad defense.
Right.
I don't think there's any chance that Oklahoma's defense suddenly looks good. There is a possibility that Ohio State does just because they have the talent.
Right. Now, I personally don't think that a one-loss Oklahoma is the sort of one loss that's going to jump an undefeated. I
think that's Oklahoma. Do we root for them to blow out Texas to increase that possibility?
Maybe if we think it's a possibility, then yeah. But the committee's going to look at Oklahoma, and they're going to see, they're going to see 37-27 at Iowa State. Not awful. It gets worse. 28-21 against Army. 41
and Army's good this year, but
yeah, but 40 or 51-46 against Texas Tech. That's at Texas Tech.
Okay, that one was a bit like Kyler threw like 2 early interceptions.
Yeah,
that Tech cashed in on, and then they blasted them from there on out.
But only by 5. But only won by 5, though. I agree.
The defense is bad, and not just like, oh, it's the Big 12. They play so many great offenses. They are bad. They're not good. It's right. A bad defense in a bad situation, not a good defense in a bad situation.
1-point win at home in Bedlam when Oklahoma State had a chance on the 2-point conversion and didn't get it, and then they give up 40 at home against Kansas. So not awesome. I just don't think that that's the sort of resume that is going to be good enough to jump over. Like now, let's say Georgia beats Alabama. If Georgia beats Alabama, they're going to jump Notre Dame.
Yes.
No question. That's the sort of one-loss team I think that definitely jumps Notre Dame. So,
but then you might still get a rematch, wouldn't you? Because
okay.
That transitions into the does. Okay, so assume Georgia wins.
Is Alabama in? No matter what.
I
mean, no matter what.
Unless they get blown out. Unless Tua makes it to the 4th quarter. They're getting blown out with Tua healthy, and then Tua gets hurt. So it's like they weren't even that good with Tua, and now they don't have him anymore.
Right.
That is the only way it happens.
There's even still a case that's like, well, their backup also took them to 2 national championships. So I don't even know that I don't know. Yeah, there's no way.
They would have to get blown out, which is not going to happen.
Okay. So definitely in.
Yeah.
Yes.
99%.
I think it's, yeah.
What would the seeds be if everything else is chalk?
I feel like the way you would look at it.
The only thing I feel certain is that Clemson's won.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I think we know for sure.
Okay, you already think Alabama is the clear-cut best team in the country at this point, and that Notre Dame is number 3. Alabama has played a much harder, by any measure, Alabama's played a much harder schedule and looked much better against that schedule than Notre Dame has. And now they have to play an extra game that Notre Dame does not have to play against a team that you currently have ranked number 4. So how are you going to say, Alabama's close loss to this number 4 team somehow makes them worse than this team you already thought they were clearly better than?
Alabama absolutely should not be behind Notre Dame, but if they weren't, then that sets up a rematch, which was what your point before was. And I think that the committee will just put Alabama at 4 and seed it Clemson, Georgia, Notre Dame, Alabama, just to avoid the rematch.
It wouldn't surprise me.
The thing is, it's not one person doing it, right? Like it's an aggregation
Right.
of a bunch of people's votes.
But then do they tweak? But you know what I mean? Like, do they at the end maybe tweak it like a little bit to like get the result that they want just from like a
somebody should ask. Somebody should ask them if they do that.
They just like flat out like, I mean, if this was to happen, like it would be a legitimate question to say like, did y'all tweak that? Because like, how did you have Notre Dame like ahead of Alabama? I want to get into some of the more like the nuclear scenario for the last thing, but before that, just on like a sort of a more subjective question, if Alabama loses this game, still makes the playoffs, how bummed are you guys going to be?
I mean, I'm going to be pretty bummed, honestly. Like, for one, you know, as fun as it's been to twice in the last decade win a national championship without winning your division, I like to win SEC championships. I think it's great. I like Alabama being able to, you know, say that we dominated the conference. I like the SEC championship means something to me as a fan, for one. But then the bigger thing is just that, like, you like we've talked, like this can be the best team of all time,
right?
And you got to finish it. And 14-1 national champions, SEC runner-ups, is a great season. It's, you know, with another amazing chapter in this incredible dynasty, but it's not, you know.
That was going to be my next question. I want to hear Mitch's thoughts first, but my next question was going to be like, how much would it cheapen a national championship for you? Like if Alabama was to then win their 2 playoff games and win the national championship, like how much would it cheapen that? You know, but Mitch, how bummed would you be if they lose and still make the playoffs?
I feel like I'll be so perplexed that like I'm not even sure how much bummed I can, like how sad I can feel. Like, because it's gonna have to, like, for them to lose, it's gonna have to be like the luck of every Ole Miss game they've played plus the luck of every Auburn game they've played. Like,
right.
When it's like, and if something like that happens, it's just like, what? Like,
okay, two nuclear scenarios. The first one isn't so nuclear. Oklahoma loses. Georgia loses by 2 touchdowns. Just kind of like Alabama just kind of controls the game, but Georgia keeps it close and Alabama wins, whatever. Ohio State wins by a touchdown.
So you're setting up the Georgia Ohio State question here?
Yes.
I mean, I don't think there's any way you can say in the name of logical consistency that this team, which you said it was close between Alabama and Georgia?
Like 14.
Ooh.
2 touchdowns.
If it's closer than that, I think it's Georgia almost for sure, or it should be.
Yeah.
I don't like logical consistency says, like, you know, how are you going to take this team that you had at number 6 and they played a nobody? I mean, Northwestern is ranked, I guess, but they're not good. They should not be ranked. They're bad. How are you going to take a team that just barely beat, you know, this chump division winner and elevate them 2 spots over a team that just played a relatively close game with this team that you have viewed as far and away the best team in the country?
Mitch?
Yeah, if you remove the priors per se on how you viewed, like if you just like haven't watched any football all season, or like haven't watched these teams and built opinions about them, and then just at the very end, like compared the two, like I think, because so right now Ohio State, like their strength of record, like the ESPN measure that's like been extremely correlated to like who's made the playoff and what spot they've been in. Like right now Ohio State's 5 and Georgia's 4. So I think after that, Ohio State would for sure jump them in that metric.
Yeah. So my follow-up to that was going to be like, I think it should be Georgia, but also I have a really hard time seeing them putting in a 2-loss non-champion over a 1-loss champion.
Yeah.
But I feel like people will just have formed opinions about Georgia. That's just like, well, they prove they're not better than Alabama, but who is? So, well, let's just leave them where they are.
Okay. More nuclear scenario. Oklahoma and Ohio State lose and UCF wins. 14. Alabama by 14 over Georgia.
Oh, so Alabama wins.
Alabama wins.
Yeah, so this is the one I've wondered about is like, okay, like say Alabama wins decisively enough that let's say Mitch's prediction, let's say it's 50-13. There's no way you can put Georgia in. Right. So you're not going to put in an Ohio State that just lost to Northwestern.
Right.
And you're not going to put in two lost Oklahoma with an awful defense.
I wouldn't think so.
The only other team still ahead of UCF is, and let's say UCF annihilates Memphis with their backup quarterback.
Yeah. Michigan.
Who else are you going to put in? You're not going to put in 2-loss non-Big Ten East champion Michigan.
3-loss Texas.
I would love for this to happen because I just want to force the committee's hand. Like,
Mitch, what did you say?
There is no good option in that scenario.
Well, Texas would have to jump really far.
What is Texas now?
They're
like 14, aren't they?
14. Yeah, scratch that. Yeah, scratch that.
But the thing about this scenario is like UCF right now, they've not played a great schedule, but their strength of record is still 9. Like they'll still end up with probably, I don't know if beating Memphis would jump them 2 spots, but I imagine they would probably end up jumping Michigan.
Then it also comes down to how much does the committee factor in the quarterback.
Yeah.
That's why, I think they have to look. I think they have to destroy. And Memphis played them close, like it was 31-30.
Right.
They played Memphis in the regular season. Yeah, that honestly, this sucks all the more about Mackenzie Milton going down. Because if he hadn't, and they come in and blow the doors off Memphis, I would be. I mean, this is still an incredibly unlikely scenario, right? Because it involves both
Oklahoma could lose, but Ohio State's not going to lose, probably.
Yeah.
I also wouldn't remove Georgia in this scenario either.
Well, I think that's who it's between, right? I think it's between Georgia and UCF, and that was going to be my final question. Oklahoma, Ohio State, and UCF lose. Georgia, just by default?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just by literally no other option.
Yeah.
Because you can't put Michigan in.
What do you do if it's I don't even know what, because imagine Alabama blows out Georgia and Oklahoma and Ohio State lose.
It's 100% Georgia. Because you're not putting Michigan in because Michigan got blown out by Ohio State.
LSU would have been a legitimate possibility, especially having beaten Georgia head to head. But I
think LSU would have made it in the last scenario we talked about.
That's possible.
Yeah,
LSU would have been a factor. Yeah, I think yeah. But in all likelihood, as fun as these scenarios are to talk about, both Oklahoma and Ohio State are going to win, or at least one of them will win.
Oklahoma really should have beat Texas.
Right.
October. They averaged 9 yards a play and lost.
Yeah. Their post-game win expectancy in that game was a cool 92%. I don't know how they lost. And
3 turnovers. Texas got really lucky in the turnover margin.
And Oklahoma ain't play no defense.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well,
Heisman. Yeah.
Heisman. Oh, Heisman.
Unless Tua bombs this weekend, it's his. I don't care what Kyler Murray does. The vote has been. It's probably going to be closer than it would have been a month and a half ago. But yeah.
Mitch, agreed.
Yeah. He won it a long time ago.
Yeah, I tend to agree too. All right.
Well, that's it for this week. This was fun. We will see y'all next week, hopefully celebrating an SEC championship and a locked up #1 seed.
All right, roll Tide.